Today is January 27th, 2014. I am Brandon King. I'm here with Hank Smith as part of the Case Western Reserve Social Justice Institute Voicing in Action Project. Director, Dr. Rhonda.
All right.
How you doing today, Hank?
I'm doing great.
You want to start off? This is your part two, your first interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a number of questions after, watching your first interview, which I thought was pretty good. I wanted to start off with you.
Okay.
After your first interview, is there anything you feel like you want to talk about? Anything more?
Well, I think that some things wasn't covered in the first interview. Hopefully, we'll touch on them now. One of them would be my education, and the other one would be my children.
Okay. Education, children.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get to those now, or you want me to go over some of mine?
You just go over yours.
Okay. Now, I know you said you're from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
You came to Cleveland about 6 months old.
Yeah.
You went up to PA,
Mm-hmm.
and then back to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, growing up in Cleveland, one of 6 children,
Mm-hmm.
looking at East Cleveland from outside
Mm-hmm.
East Cleveland, what were your perceptions of East Cleveland? And give me a year.
Okay. I didn't have much perception about East Cleveland until around 67, 68. At that time, I was driving, and sometimes me and my cousin or a couple of friends would ride around, and sometimes we would be drinking beer while we was riding, but whenever we got close to East Cleveland, it was common knowledge for everybody to get rid of any beer that you had in the car or anything else. If you had anything in the car that was illegal, you needed to get rid of it before we got into East Cleveland. That's what I remember. It was a we considered it a more affluent neighborhood. And we knew that the police were tough in East Cleveland. That's the perception I had at that time. Yeah.
And you're visiting East Cleveland, why?
Well, I had a girlfriend that lived in Collinwood, and we would have to go through East Cleveland, and I never visited East Cleveland at that time, but I did pass through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your motivation to move into East Cleveland?
Like I said, I thought it was a good neighborhood. I didn't move to East Cleveland until after I had been in the service and did some traveling and came back to Cleveland after I got out of the service. I came back to Cleveland and I was looking for a place to live. I had gotten married. I was kind of young. And we found a place over on Superior Hill. It was a high-rise apartment building called Forest Park Tower. Had a nightclub on top, had a swimming pool. It was a very nice place for a 20-year-old person like myself at the time. And I lived on like the 18th floor, and it was just like a nice place to live. But I really didn't have, at the time, I didn't even realize that I was a part of East Cleveland. It was just a nice apartment. That's why I moved there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Moved there with your wife.
Yes.
Your first wife? Second
My
wife?
first wife.
First wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
I married my first wife when I was 17 years old. I was in the Army at the time.
17 years old. Thought that was kind of young. You're just in love.
It was kind of young, you know. It was young, but she was a great girl, you know, and she was my first sergeant's daughter. You know, so I kind of, you know, it just happened. You know, I think I got married too young.
So you met her where?
In Virginia Beach. I was stationed at Fort Story, Virginia, and the Fort Story is a small Army base, and I met her on base because my first sergeant lived on base, and at the time I ran what was called the service club. This was a place where enlisted men can go and just have fun. And that was my job, to make sure that the soldiers that came in there had a good time. So the children of the enlisted men would also come there. So that's how I met her. You know.
Okay. And you brought her to Cleveland with you?
I did bring her back. When I went overseas, I brought her back to stay with my mother.
Okay. Any offspring with that marriage?
Yes, there's one. Me and her broke up when he wasn't quite 1 year old, and she moved back to Virginia Beach.
Okay. And how about the child?
The
Child.
The child, she took him with her, and we did not communicate very much at that time. You know, so I kind of lost track of him. In fact, even today, I'm trying to locate him, and I'm having difficulty. You know, I feel like I really need to contact him, you know, because I'm 61 years old now, and I've always tried to contact him, but I never knew how to get in touch. You know, I thought that one day she would contact me because she know it's always easy to get in touch with me. You know, she has access to all of my brothers and sisters, and for a long time she had access to my mother until she passed. Yeah.
Met her in the military. Now, remember you were saying you were in Vietnam?
No, I wasn't in Vietnam. I was in Okinawa.
Okinawa?
Yeah.
You were in the war?
I was in Okinawa. I was at a military base where they had a hospital, and we would bring in wounded from Vietnam to the island where I was stationed at. You know, I did not go on land in Vietnam.
Okay. Okay. And how many years total did you spend in the Army?
Total 6. Well, that's 6 3 active duty and 3 active reserve.
And you decided to pack it up?
Yeah, I decided to pack it up. I had an incident when I was in Okinawa where I had a accident where a person got killed.
Right.
And it caused me a lot of problems back then. And I thought that the military treated me unjustly because they didn't try to help me after they sent me over there. They gave me a list of lawyers' names, and all of the lawyers that was on the list was all Japanese lawyers. The only help that I got was from some volunteers. I think it was ACLU or somebody came over there to help soldiers who were in positions like I was. Actually, I was driving down the street, and when you drive down those streets, there's no sidewalk. And this guy came out of the bar. I saw him. I saw him come out of the bar standing in between 2 parked cars. And as soon as I got close enough, he ran out in front of my car, and he died. But the Japanese government charged me with vehicular homicide. No, vehicular manslaughter or homicide. I'm not sure exactly what it is. That was quite a few years ago. It was one of those. Vehicular homicide, I think it was. And they wanted to give me 3 years at no hard labor in their prison. I spent about 2 weeks in their prison, and some young students from America came, and they did help me get out. I ended up paying all the money I had saved for the last 3 years that I was going to use once I got out of the military. I had to give it all to the Japanese government, because according to their law, no matter what, if you're driving a car and you hit a pedestrian, you're wrong. There's no other excuse. You cannot hit a pedestrian under no circumstances. The Japanese lawyer they gave me pointed to a bridge out the window and said, if that man had fell off of that bridge in front of your car and lived, and then you hit him and he died, you would still be charged, because you don't hit a pedestrian under no circumstances. But these students that came over, I don't know what happened, but somehow I ended up with a fine. If I could pay the fine, they would drop the charges. And one thing I noticed while I was over there going through the interrogations and things, they never would ask me questions about the accident. They would ask me questions like what my father did for a living, what my brothers did for a living, what kind of life I had in the United States. These are the kind of concerns that they were asking me. They never asked me anything about the accident.
Why do you think that was?
I have no idea, but I really don't know. I thought about it a lot. Yes, I do. I did draw a conclusion that I thought they were interrogating me to find out how affluent my family was so that they can get money from us. Because it was common knowledge over there that anybody from America, the locals, thought you were rich. Well, no matter who you were, if you came from America, they thought you were rich. And that must have been a fact, because as these people were interrogating me, and they took me through some intense interrogation for a couple of weeks, and but they never asked me anything about the accident. And another strange things about the accident, it turned out his brother, the guy who died, his brother was an affluent lawyer in the community. And he personally told me that he wanted to drop the charges on me because I think that his brother was a drunk, and he was embarrassed about his brother's activities. That's the feeling I got from his conversation. But the government would not drop it. Wow. And it was really strange because they never checked me to see if I was drinking or anything. It was really strange because I asked the police if I could go to the hospital with him, and we went to the hospital, and they took the man in another room, and I walked around the corner and looked in the room, and it looked like the policeman was squeezing his injured leg, trying to make him answer questions, and I couldn't understand that. And then before I left, they told me that the man was going to be all right. He's injured, but he's going to be okay. And I went to work the next day, and next thing I knew, some police were there to pick me up, said the man had died. And from then on, it was just trouble. I felt like I was a good soldier, and for them to just put me out like that and not help me, I felt very bad about it. So it was time for me to re-enlist at the time. And I was about to re-enlist until this incident happened, and that made me just get out. You know, as far as I was concerned, I was going to be a career soldier at that time. But they changed my mind.
How long were you in Okinawa?
About a year and a half.
And in that time period, had you experienced any? Well, first of all, had you seen anyone else, any other military comrade, hit and kill a civilian?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because there was a guy that was in jail with me, and he had hit a lady, a local national, with his motorcycle, and she died. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough money to get out, so he ended up doing the 3 years. I was able to come home, because I had been saving my money all the time. I was in the military.
Anyone else hit a civilian?
That's the only one that I remember because we were in such close proximity. But I have heard of things while I was over there.
Now, while you were there, you said that you felt they didn't treat you right in this circumstance because they didn't provide you lawyers, or I find it hard to believe they even let you go into someone else's jail.
Yeah.
Now, you were over there on military duty. You weren't.
Right. I was over there on military duty. This was during the time when we were just giving the island of Okinawa back to the Japanese. Because, see, we had occupied that island ever since World War II, and after World War II, we stayed there and occupied the island. We had a lot of interest over there. But that particular year, right around that time, we had just given the island back to them. And that's what the officials told me when I had the accident. They said, now we're under Japanese jurisdiction. It's not Okinawan anymore. We're under Japanese jurisdiction. And we have to turn you over to the Japanese. And I thought that was wrong, because, like I said, I didn't ask to go over there. And they even expressed to me that we can see that this was an accident. We know it's an accident, but they told me there's nothing we can do. We have to turn you over to the Japanese. And they took me to a prison. It was like a dungeon. It was one of the worst things I ever seen. Something out of Dark Ages, it seemed like. And they fed me fish heads and rice morning, noon, and night. That's what I ate every day for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Now, the military, you don't think that there was any funny thing going on with why they let you go to jail like this? You don't think that there was any other thing that had to do with it? Any other thing played into it?
I never thought it. I just thought that I really didn't think anything else had played into it. I just thought that we're under Japanese jurisdiction, so and I'm over here. I just felt like my government should have treated me better, because I was in the military. I was a good soldier, and they just put me out.
The other guy you said that on a motorcycle, was he black, white?
He was white.
And they actually let him.
Mm-hmm. They let him go too. Yeah, he ended up in jail, in their prison system.
Okay, so you don't think racism had anything to do with
not at all
how they treated you?
Not at all.
And while you were in the military, had you experienced any racism, or is it just this one thing that took you over the edge and you didn't want to re-enlist?
That's what took me over the edge. But I had experienced some racism. Most of the time, the military was good to me. I had good jobs while I was in there. They gave me great training. There was a couple of racial incidents when I first got stationed at Fort Story with a coworker. Her husband was an MP, and he was racist. He did some things to other African Americans on post, and and we ended up getting together and forming a group to try to do something about it. United, what do we call ourselves? United Black Servicemen's Coalition. Yes, and that was my racial incidents, and that was Virginia Beach back in the early '70s, back in '71. Or it might, no, 1970. It was 1970. That was the racial experience I had. I mean, the guy actually called me a nigger.
He was your superior officer?
No, he wasn't my superior officer. He was my coworker's husband. But he didn't like the idea that we were forming organization, and we were meeting at my service club where I worked. The director of the service club gave us permission to be able to do this, and but he was an MP, military police, and he didn't like the idea that we were meeting there. And me and him got into a conversation, and he called me the N-word, and we didn't get in a fight, but I pressed charges against him, and he ended up getting put out of the service, and his girlfriend that was working with me, she ended up quitting, so even though we were going through some racial problems right then, the military did back me up.
What about your higher-ranking officers, or some of your peer officers?
Well, some of my peer officers. See, it worked out real well for me when I got there, because after I was stationed there for about a month, they had me on guard duty, guarding an ammo dump up on top of this big hill, and I'm sitting there under a light. It's pouring down raining, and I'm sitting out there with a rifle in front of the ammo dump, and way down the mountain I could see a car coming up. I could see the headlights coming up, and the guy got up there, and it turned out it was Sonny Hall, a guy that used to work for my father. My stepfather. He owned a body and fender shop, and this guy used to work for him, and he came and sought me out. And he said, don't worry about it, Hank, you ain't gonna have to do this no more. So after that, from that time on, I started getting really good jobs. Like I said, I worked in a service club, and my job was to make sure soldiers had a good time. And I had access to bus transportation, pool tables, whatever I needed. And whatever I suggested, my director would let me do it. I would take a bus into town and ride it around and just pick up girls and bring them back to the base every Saturday, and we would have a party at the service club. And then it got to the point where it was just like a regular thing. They would be waiting at certain bus stops for me to come and get them in my bus, so, and I mean, that's just how, it started off with Sonny Hall coming to visit me. And then I started dating this one young lady, and it turned out she was my first sergeant's daughter. So we eventually got married, and he kind of accepted me. And by my first sergeant being, by me being related to the first sergeant now, and my other friend was a pretty high up ranked person, they kind of looked out for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Now, what would you say was the experience of some of your military peers? Did they have the same look?
No, everybody didn't have the same luck as like I did. I did have a lot of good luck in the beginning, and I used it, to get me in other places, because with the experience I got in the service club, I ended up working at the 1-2-3 club, which was more of like a little bar, and from there, once I became an NCO, then I started working in the NCO club at managing the bar. So it kind of kept me going and getting good jobs.
Okay, so if I'm understanding it correctly, you're moving up in ranks.
Yeah, I moved in rank pretty quick.
Okay. So there was no favoritism or anything like that, not just with you, but with other peers climbing the ladder of the military.
Now, in the military, you got to earn your work. You can have peers that's going to try to help you, but you got to show on record that you deserve this rank. People just can't give you rank. They can try, but if you don't earn it, you're going to lose it. It won't last long. I earned what I did because I worked hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you come back to Cleveland and settle in East Cleveland with your wife.
Yes, right. And then we settled in East Cleveland.
That was about 1980, I think you said.
No, that was when I settled with my wife, with my first wife. That must have been 74, 75.
At Park Lane?
It's Forest Park Tower.
75.
I'm trying to remember how long. I came out of active duty February 73, and by 74, we were living at Forest Park Tower. By 74.
What was life like in East Cleveland in 1974?
It was nice then, I thought so. I didn't spend much time within the city of East Cleveland. My activities took me all around. Like I said, I didn't even relate where I was living at, being in East Cleveland. I related more to Cleveland Heights because it was right around the corner, right at the border, and I spent more time in Cleveland Heights over in the Coventry area, more so than in East Cleveland.
But you felt it was nice going home, and I know you said in your earlier tape that you ran into a celebrity.
Yeah, right upstairs, lived right over me was Eddie Levert of the OJs.
How did that make you feel?
It made me feel good. It made me feel like George Jefferson, like I was moving on up. And it was the early '70s when that program had come out.
Right here in East Cleveland.
Right here in East Cleveland, I was moving on up. But I had a beautiful view out the building. I could see the lake from my living room window. It was fantastic. And Eddie Levert lived upstairs from me. I met him on the elevator. I didn't even know who he was. And he looked in my face because I'm trying to tell him, I know you from somewhere, but I don't know where I know you from. I told him my name, and he laughed at me and said, you know who I am. And it turned out it was Eddie Levert.
Gave you a good perception of the city at that point.
It did, of the city and that building I was living in. Because right at the top of it, I think it's called the Eagle's Nest or something like that. The Owl's Nest or the Eagle's Nest, it was at the top at the penthouse. And it was a jazz club. And I saw all the jazz greats at the top of my building. Eddie Harris, Les McCann, Cannonball Adderley. I saw them all. I saw everybody up there. All I had to do was get on the elevator and go upstairs.
What was the makeup of your building at that point?
It was a mixture of blacks and whites. You mean racial makeup?
Racial, family, single.
I thought it was more single oriented at the time. There probably were families in there.
But it was a mix, a racial mix in there.
It was a racial mix.
In the city overall?
I don't know about what East Cleveland was like then. Like I said, I really didn't spend time in the city. You know, my time where I was at on Forest Park Tower on Superior Hill, it was right around the corner from Cleveland Heights, and I was attracted more to Cleveland Heights at that time. So I just didn't get into the city. You know,
Take us from Forest Park Tower and your first wife to then. What happens after that?
okay. After well, we moved out of there, and we bought a house on 86 in Superior. Really nice, 4-bedroom house with a finished attic and finished basement. I think I paid $15,000 for that house. You know, but we stayed there for a couple of years, and then in 1976 we broke up. She moved back to Virginia Beach, and I moved up to Scranton, Pennsylvania at the time. You know, so that's when we broke up. Now,
You care to talk about that?
the breakup, or
Yeah.
well, my life has gotten a little busy at the time. You know, I was involved in a lot of things, but I guess I wasn't ready to be married. I was just too young, you know. And then my child was born, and we started having problems, and we ended up breaking up. I left, went up Scranton, Pennsylvania, and took a job working for the federal government at a missile plant up in the Poconos. We were manufacturing missiles for the government. And that was another weird incident because they hired all of these people to work in this company. Originally, they made garage door openers, but then they shut the plant down, retooled it, and started making missiles. They hired over 500 people. And at the time, I was one of 3 African Americans working in that plant. You know, they showed us this film of these missiles that we were going to manufacture. It was a great missile. I had all these grenades on it, and the film would show it in slow motion as the missile was going. It's throwing grenades everywhere, and then it had a giant warhead in it. So, you know, we thought we were doing something good for the country. We making these missiles, and then after we had stockpiled missiles for 2 years, turned out that the missile was defective. The missile blow up before it reaches destination, you know, and this was taxpayer money. This was all taxpayer money, you know. But it gave me, it made me think about what we do as Americans as far as the taxes we pay, because somebody had to know that that missile was defective before we built them for 2 years. So they got all these missiles stockpiled. They probably ended up selling them to some third world country or something, you know, but that was taxpayer money that was invested in all of that, you know. And then they shut the plant down.
Wow. And I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, you say you were real busy and life was hectic, and that kind of led to the breakup of you and your first wife. But then you jump right up to Scranton, PA.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's when we split. She went to Virginia and I went to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of Cleveland.
Out of Cleveland.
Cut everything you was doing?
I just cut. I at the time I had been working at Jones and Laughlin Steel. You know, I was making good money over there. And but after we broke up, I left. You know, I knew about this job opportunity.
Okay, so it was really the job opportunity. You didn't feel the need to leave the city. Or was there?
Yeah, I did want to leave the city. Yeah, I wanted to get out of here.
Out of Cleveland?
Yeah, because I was having some issues of my own at the time. And I thought the best thing for me to do was cut everything right now and just start. If I could get this job, I can start a new life. And my grandmother lived in Scranton, and the job was right in the Poconos, so, you know, and it worked in my favor.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to pause here.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're in Scranton, PA.
Yeah.
How long were you up there?
I must have been up in Scranton from 76 to 1979. Winter of 79, I came back to Cleveland.
Back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Now, what brought you back to East Cleveland?
It brought me back to Cleveland. This was my home, you know. I guess I could have went somewhere else, but my family was here. I did have another child because I had a child when I was 15 years old, and she was still here. So my brothers and my sisters and my parents, everybody was still here, you know. So after that job shut down up in Pennsylvania, I just came back home.
Came to where?
Well, I started off in Cleveland. I think I stayed with my mother for a couple of weeks, and then around that time, I met my wife. Yeah, I met my present wife. That was in '79, and we started dating. You know, I picked up an apartment in Cleveland, and then she was living in East Cleveland. So at that time, that's when I started spending a lot of time in East Cleveland. And eventually, I moved in with her, you know, because she had already had the house. And we moved in together, and she had 2 kids, you know. So we started living together, and then she started telling me she didn't want to live together. She wanted to be married. And I was crazy about it. I loved her, so I thought that maybe we should be married, you know.
What year would you say you met her? 79?
79, I met her.
And what part of East Cleveland? Where did she stay in East Cleveland?
It's the same house we live in now on Milan Avenue. Yeah.
Tell us about East Cleveland in 1979.
Well, when I started visiting her, let me see, I moved in with her in 1980. That was on Milan Avenue, where I live at now, and it was a really nice street. The kids would all, it was just a family-oriented street. You know, you had a lot of kids was on the street, and you would see them out playing around in front of the house every day, you know, riding their bicycles. Most of them, for some reason, they all seem to gravitate to our house. You know, if they wasn't at our house, they were in front of our house. That's where all the kids ended up at our house for some reason. And I think a lot of that was because a lot of times I had a van and I'd load all the kids up and take them to the park, stuff like that. You know, and plus I helped form a Cub Scout troop, and all my son's friends were in the Cub Scout troop. So those are reasons why they probably gravitated to our house all the time. You know? But it was a mixture of, there was maybe about, by the time I moved over there was about 4 white families, you know, but they all disappeared within the first year that I was over there. I started seeing a change. All the white families moved off the street, and then other homeowners that was on the street that used to take care of their house, they started moving out. And sometimes people would die and their kids wouldn't take care of the house, or whatever would happen, the house would just start deteriorating. And then next thing you know, we had a lot of renters. We had more, when I first moved there, we had more homeowners than renters. But within a couple of years, we had more renters than homeowners. And that made a big difference because now, for some reason, the people that was moving into these houses, they thought that because they didn't own the house, they didn't have to cut the grass or nothing like that, which I never understood that logic, but that's the way people feel. Because even though they live there, but because they don't own it, they think they don't have to cut the grass or shovel the sidewalk or anything like that. And I don't understand that at all. Because even if I was renting, I would want my house to look decent. I wouldn't want trash out in the front yard and stuff like that. But you could see the change in the people that was moving on the street. And then the drugs started coming. That was what seemed to bring the city down. Drugs got so prevalent that you couldn't even walk down the street without being accosted by somebody wanting to sell you some drugs or somebody trying to do something. It made you scared just to walk down the street, and it happened so fast. It was like it was like just a short period of time. It went from being a really nice street to a really bad neighborhood. And it's unbelievable how fast it happened. At the time I was working, I had gotten a job with the VA. And I was working for the VA, and I would catch the bus because I could go down to Windermere and get down there. So I would catch the bus back and forth. And I would have to walk from Windermere to home, which wasn't that far. It'd take me about 10 minutes. And one time somebody accosted me out there, and I got into an argument with him because I didn't want to deal with it, and the guy ended up shooting me. I ended up in the hospital. I almost got killed because I didn't want to deal with the drug trade.
We could back up. I want to go back to 79.
Okay.
When you were courting your wife. Yeah. Tell me some of the things you did courting her, like your dates.
Well, I was somewhat of a romantic back in those days, and I feel like I'm a romantic today, tell you the truth. But I'd take her out to dinner. I always brought her flowers. I did it the old school way. I'd bring her flowers. Sometime if I'm out, and I think at that time, when we first started courting, I was working downtown at Cardinal Federal Bank. And while I was downtown, I would see different things. And if I saw something that caught my eye, I'd bring her a gift, So that's the kind of courting I did. I like to see the surprise on her face when I show her something nice. I bought her flowers, clothes, and things like that. Took her out to real nice restaurants,
Do much courting here inside the city? Was a lot of that?
It was out.
Outside the city?
Yeah. I didn't see too much going on in East Cleveland that this was in 79, 80. I didn't see too much happening that attracted my attention. Okay. Whatever activities I wanted, I usually had to find somewhere else. Because I like seafood, so I'd go to real nice restaurants. I like a good steak, So I'd take her out to really nice places, and I didn't know of any around here.
Not in East Cleveland. Mm-mm. Okay.
I mean, we would go to Angela Mia's, places like that, when they early on when they were really good,
Angela Mia was a sit down
there. Well, no, we go there when we wanted pizza. I ain't never sat in there and ate.
But it was a sit down.
I think so. Okay. I think it was. Yeah. That was a while back. but that's where we would get our pizza, and even when Pizza Hut came to town, I still preferred going to Angela Mia's. Yeah.
What about the park?
The park, I've always enjoyed Forest Hills Park. I still enjoy it today. I think that's one of the best assets this city has, and I don't think that we as residents use it enough. I mean, it's such a nice park, and there's so many activities that can be done up there, and there are a lot of things being done, but I think it's way underused.
Okay. I want to go to this question, and you touched on it a little bit, so I want to keep that thought going.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways has the city changed over time, and what do you think contributed to those changes?
Well, I saw a big change over the time that I've been here. I've been in the city of East Cleveland since before 1980, but continuous from 1980 till now. I've been a resident in the city, continuous. And what I saw change was the quality of people. Like when I first moved on Milan Avenue, there was homeowners. People took care of their property. They looked out for each other. You knew your neighbors. That changed drastically. The only reason I know my neighbors is because I'm active in the community. I like to do things that try to improve the quality of life around the city of East Cleveland, and so I get to know people. But if you was to ask my wife about who she knows on the streets, she don't know very many people, and that's typical of the way things are. People don't even get to know their neighbors anymore. These are bad things. These are really bad things.
Why
Kids.
do you think that is?
Well, it started off like I originally was talking about the drug trade. The drug trade got so prevalent in East Cleveland. This is where everything came. People would come from all over because they knew they could get drugs in East Cleveland, and it was openly distributed. You couldn't walk down the street, like I said. That's what changed. Homeowners started moving away. They started renting the property out to anybody. People would rent out because they have that, the government subsidized Section 8. They started renting out to Section 8, which I can't blame it on everybody that's on Section 8, but the families that was moving close around me, they was just destroying the houses. I mean, they'd move in there, and I guess the landlord wasn't fixing it up. The landlord wasn't cutting the grass. The residents wasn't cutting the grass. When something happened to a house, they just let it fall apart. And then house after house just started falling apart. And I think it all boils down to the start of all that drug trade that was coming in here in the early 80s, the crack cocaine. I think that's what really took East Cleveland down. And they couldn't control it. And then you started getting elected officials that really wasn't doing much for the city. A lot of the elected officials, that's another thing that kept our city down. We kept putting people in office that didn't have the city at heart. They wanted the prestige of being an elected official instead of doing the things necessary to help the city. They were doing things to take away from the city. I mean, we had a mayor of the city go to jail for stealing. We had other mayors that really wasn't experienced in running the city. I mean, these are the kind of things we've been putting up with for years. Finally, we got an administration that's trying to move the city forward. So, I'm really happy about the administration we have now. But I've saw administration after administration. This is the council and the mayor, one after another, that really didn't accomplish anything. Hopefully we're at a place now where we can get something going.
Hey,
yeah.
Let's stay with this same theme.
Okay.
But you met your new wife.
Mm-hmm.
She had 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, understand you have a total of 6 kids. So, with.
No. She's got 2,
Uh-huh.
and I've got 2.
And you have 2.
Yeah.
She has 2, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's a total of 4 kids.
4, yeah.
Okay. Now, where I'd like to try to get some input from you with the 4 kids, and you talked about all the kids gravitating to your house because you would take them out in a van.
Yeah.
We are talking about changes in the city. Now, I know that it's been talked about in years past how great of a school system East Cleveland had.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. When I go back to the school system, see, when I say kids, mostly my experience was with her kids, but they're my kids because when I met them, they were like 5 and 9. You know, I raised them since then, and so I look at them as they're my kids. You know, I spent a lot of time with them during their school years. I made sure that I communicated with the school a lot. We made sure that the school had our numbers. I had 2 jobs at the time. They had both my job numbers. They had my wife's number. Any problems, you call us, and we'll deal with it. Well, one incident that stays in my mind, I remember somebody from the school calling my job and telling me my son had not been to his 9th period class. So I called back down to the school. I said, check his other classes, find out if he's missed any other classes, and I'll be down there. I get down there and find out he hadn't been to school, period, for 2 weeks. You know, and we always made it clear that we were concerned, and if there was an issue, to call us. And now they want to suspend him for another week. And I fought it. I said, no, you cannot suspend him for a week. You know, you've already, all you had to do was call us from the beginning and we could have took care of this. You wouldn't even found out if that he missed those 2 weeks if I hadn't asked you to check, So, I fought it, and they gave him an in-school suspension, So, but that really turned me off with that school system, I was all ready to take them out of it. This was more like that's when they were in high school by then.
So that was Shaw.
That was Shaw. They were in high school. So that kind of turned me off. And, I haven't been happy with it, with the school system. For one reason, because of that. And then another reason was I would go up there during the parent-teacher days, and I would talk to the teachers because I was telling them my one son, I don't like the way he writes. His penmanship isn't very good. And her comment was to me, well, have you ever seen a doctor's writing? But that ain't got nothing to do with my son. So I kind of got into words with her, bringing up some doctor's writing, when I'm asking you to check on his penmanship and see if you can help him with it, and you're telling me he don't have to know how to write. That was not a good thing for a teacher to tell a parent, I thought. But those are the things that kind of turned me off about the system.
Was this in high school as well?
Both of them. Both incidents was in high school about the same child.
Now, what about junior high and elementary? What was the
Kirk?
Core with the teachers like that?
It was good. Kirk and Mayfair were good schools. I had good communication with the teachers, and
let's try to separate out those years. What year would you say the high school?
Let me think back. Let me see.
Well, I guess a better question is, Do you feel that that
Well,
has
well, well,
also contributed?
90, I would say,
Okay,
around
90.
in that time, 90, 91,
Okay.
somewhere
It was
in
high
there.
school
Yeah.
before that. Now, would you say that what type of impact would you say that the school system has had on the city?
I'm hearing better things now than my experience that I had. I've had other nieces and nephews that have graduated from Shaw, friends, and since my kids have graduated, I'm getting better reports back from how the school is now. You know, I'm hearing that they got a great band. It's world renowned. You know, that's what a lot of people identifies with East Cleveland is Shaw and his band. But I'm more academic when it comes to high school. That's what I wanted for my kids. I wanted them to have good teachers, and I don't feel like mine had good teachers at the time, but I don't know. It might have. You had to talk to them and see what they think about it. But in my opinion, I got a bad taste in my mouth.
Okay.
So, but I do hear a lot about Shaw's band. I don't know how the academics is down there with the students or what their graduation rate is or anything. But I have met some really top-notch students from that school. So they're turning out good people. Heck, even my sons now, they're hardworking, industrious people. So whatever my opinion was, evidently it still worked for them.
Racism.
Hmm.
How has racism impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, as far as the city of East Cleveland, how racism has impacted it, as a lot of these homeowners in East Cleveland started moving out, and a lot of renters started moving in, and people not taking care of their property, there's no diversity here, none that I see. So by it being no diversity, I think that we are missing out on things that can happen within a city that a county or state can. I think they hold back from East Cleveland, whereas they might help Cleveland Heights or they might help Euclid, but I think they hold back from helping East Cleveland. I don't know how it all works in the government like that, but I think that is that what gentrification is?
Gentrification is a little different than holding back the money. Gentrification is more where they displace people because they want this particular land or this particular community back. So they'll come in, buy up all the land, buy houses, and they'll push the
Okay.
residents out.
I see. Well, I see.
Racism.
Racism, yeah. Okay, well, as far as East Cleveland, I haven't experienced a lot of racism in East Cleveland because it's always been African American, so I just don't experience it. But even in school, coming up, I hear about racism and all of that. In fact, I was involved with an organization called the Afro Set. I must have been 12, 13 years old, and I joined that organization. But I joined it for other reasons. At the time I was a pot smoker, and this was a way for me to get pot. That's why I joined them. But later on in life, I find out that there was some things that they did because of my relationship with them early on. it caused me to work as a community activist basically the rest of my life. But I started off with them because, they could get me pot. but the racism that I experienced, I didn't experience it back then, except for what I saw in the news, and because the high school I went to was 99.9% African American. My community was 100% African American over in the central area. Racism, I felt racism when I was living up in New York. I was living up in Corning, New York. And I noticed the police would stop me all the time. When I first went up there, my job had transferred me up there. They transferred me to a place called Bath, New York. And so I went up there and I started working, but I know that there was very few African Americans around. But every time I turned around, these police would pull me over, and it had to be because I was black, and you didn't see a lot of black people around that community I was in, but they would just pull me over for no reason at all, and then I found out that the apartment building I was living in, there was some activity in that building, and this white policeman, he said, well, he had stopped me, and he asked me about the activity, and I told him I don't know anything about it. Actually, I had seen some things, but I didn't want to be bothered with it. And because I didn't have nothing to give him, he started harassing me every time I see him. He would pull me over, and he would just find things he'd say I was speeding, and I know I wasn't speeding. He'd say I ran the stop sign, and I didn't do it. I know I didn't do it. He knew I didn't do it, but he was just doing it just to mess with me.
You ever heard any similarities to that story in regards to East Cleveland? I know you said when you were growing up, you would put everything down.
Yeah. In regards to East Cleveland,
Or you just heard how tough
I heard how tough it was, and I made sure I wasn't dirty.
Okay. So you, none of your brothers, you're from a family of 6.
Yeah.
And so no one had ever experienced any of that simply because of your community and your school was predominantly black.
Right, yeah. Well, none of us really experienced much with East Cleveland back in those days. I was the only one involved with East Cleveland, because all my brothers and sisters was over on Central.
Okay. So Bath, New York.
Bath, New York. That was predominantly white up in the mountains. And it was a lot of prejudice there.
How did that make you feel? What type of impact do you think that had on you?
On me? It didn't, I know of racism in the world, so I really don't let that kind of stuff really eat at me. Not today. A long time ago it might have bothered me, but now it don't, because I know it's out there, and I just try to take care of myself.
Coming through those days, what were you like then? Coming through it. I mean, now we can always look back, and we're more mature now.
Yeah.
But as you were there,
When I look back on when I was there, I was upset sometimes, and I knew this cop was bothering me simply because I was black. I knew that, but it really didn't bother me to the point where it caused me much grief, because I look at it as being his problem, not mine. Because I did meet some other white people that lived up there that was really great people. I knew some really, I knew people up there that I would trust more so to help me if I need them than other people that I knew in my community here. I knew some great people up there. Yeah.
Okay.
And at the time, I was living on top of a mountain. I was about 2.5 miles up the mountain and about a half a mile into the woods. And my closest neighbor was about a half mile away.
Wow.
You know, and so it was an interesting way to be living. And then sometimes I would think about things, me being the only black person around here, you know, what are some of these other folks around these hills thinking, you know, because for a while I had to hitchhike. You know, my car broke down and I had to hitchhike down the hill, down the mountain, and then I had to hitchhike from there to get all the way to my job, which was quite a distance away. And somebody picked me up every time.
No problem.
No problem. I put my thumb out there, and short period of time, somebody would pull over and take me where I needed to go. You know, and it was always white people.
No problem.
No problem. Now, one, I kind of got scared a little bit because he kept asking me questions, you know, really personal questions about who I knew up there and things like that. And so I got kind of concerned with him, but he was the only one. And I would see him because he lived somewhere around there. So I would see him every now and then going up and down the street. So I was thinking that, was he trying to find out exactly where I live up in the mountains? You know, so that was a concern. You know, me being up here on top of this mountain out in the woods by myself, because my family was still here in East Cleveland. Yeah, yeah. So it did make me think about things then, but it didn't affect me to the point where I wanted to change because I liked the place where I was at.
Okay. All right. Well, good deal. Now, you touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to go into it a little bit more. How has inequality impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Inequality. Well, like I said, since East Cleveland had become predominantly African American, predominantly black, I think that we're losing out on some of the benefits that we could be getting here in this city. I wish it was more diverse in our community. I feel like if it was more diverse, I think we would be able to get better responses from the county and from the state. I think they're just kind of letting East Cleveland just go. I think they're trying to make the property value fall so low that nobody wants to live here, and then they start buying up all this property because we're in such close proximity to University Circle that the time is right now. But I think inequality has played a big part in the deterioration of the city, you know. But that's just a personal observation.
And that's what we really want your gut feeling on some of these questions.
Mm-hmm.
How have surrounding institutions and cities impacted East Cleveland? And why?
Well, right now, surrounding institutions, when I think of surrounding institutions, I think of GE, which was a great institution, a business here for forever, and they're still here. They stuck around, so I think that's been a good thing. Now, Cleveland Clinic, University Circle, they starting to see the value of this area, and I can see them start moving back this way. I think these are good things that the community, that the surrounding institutions are beginning to do to help us. But and then when you think about the other cities, Euclid, Cleveland Heights, you know, the border cities, I think they kind of turned their back on us. I don't think they want to have much to do with the city of East Cleveland, and I think that's got something to do with being predominantly black. I really do. You know.
So you think inequality ties into that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. the city is. I don't know. I just think that I'm thinking more about the surrounding institutions and the surrounding cities and how their impact, what impact they have on the city. I just think that now people are beginning to see that there is a value in this area, and they're going to try to move us out, you know, or try to buy up as much of this property as they can now.
Gentrification.
I think that's where the gentrification comes in. You know, East Cleveland is prime for that now. You know, property value is so low it can't go any lower. You know, I mean, you can buy a house in East Cleveland for $8,000, $5,000. You know, I've even heard somebody buying one for $3,000. You know, you can buy houses for practically nothing. You know, you got businesses around here that you can probably purchase, you know, but by it being in East Cleveland, you can practically get it for a little bit of nothing, you know. But now the time is right for big corporations or somebody to move in here, start buying up this property and doing some good things with it. So I think that's the point where the city's at right now, you know.
Impact on the city of East Cleveland. Now you mentioned GE, right? Now GE has been here
From the beginning.
Yeah. Right? What impact do you think they've had on the city since you've been here?
The only impact that they have since I've been here is their great tax base. You know, I don't hear them doing anything. You know, a large company like GE, I mean, they should want to be seen, you know, and heard about what they want to do to help the city grow. But you don't hear anything about GE. You know, I mean, they have a great school over there. And they have good resources. They've been here forever, you know, but I don't see anything they're doing for the city. And to be a good corporate neighbor that lives here, I think that they should speak up. We should be able to use their voice to help move this city forward. You know, I mean, they've been here forever. But now we got Cleveland Clinic and University Circle Incorporated moving this direction. So maybe they can be a help.
Okay, so we're back live. We just wanted to talk more on question 8. How have surrounding institutions in cities impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, if you look at Cleveland Clinic, for instance, they had a large investment with Huron Road Hospital. Now, there was a lot of different thoughts about the quality of service you got at Huron Road, but it was they had a trauma center here, which was a great asset to the community because you got more trauma in East Cleveland than you did anywhere in the state. You know, so when they took that trauma center out of the city of East Cleveland, that was not a good thing. You know, we really needed that, you know, but Cleveland Clinic took it away. And they gave us a new clinic, which is a good clinic, but we lost a lot of tax base, you know, whereas we had a lot of people working at a full-service hospital with a trauma unit. And now all we have is a clinic here, you know. But I gotta give it to them. Stephanie Tubbs Jones Clinic is a good clinic because they service people with diabetes and high blood pressure and things like that, which is a big need around here. But it still doesn't make up for the loss of a health facility like Huron Road Hospital. You know, and then you look at University Circle Incorporated. They seem to be moving back in this direction. But you see these kind of things happen all over the country. You know, wherever there's a large African American population, the surrounding corporations, surrounding entities, don't seem to do anything with that area. Whereas if there was another area, they could spend money on, they would do that. You know, they spend. Take for instance East St. Louis, Illinois. No, East St. Louis, Missouri. No, East St. Louis, Illinois. Yeah, that used to be the worst city in the country, but now they say East Cleveland is, and we're surrounded by these large institutions like Cleveland Clinic and University Circle Incorporated and University Hospital. You know, I mean, we're right next door to them, and whereas they'll take federal dollars and spend them on other areas, they won't put anything into our city.
And the impact that it's had on the city?
Well, we lost a big tax base, big tax base again. When they shut that hospital down, that Huron Road Hospital, we lost a lot of employees there. You know, and that hurts our finances in the city of East Cleveland. Okay. Yeah.
Hank, what is your vision for the future of East Cleveland? And in thinking about that, tell me about some of the major issues that face our city and our neighborhood.
Well, my vision of the future is to live in a city again where families can walk up and down the street, or you can walk your neighborhood without fear of somebody accosting you with robbery or drugs or anything like that. You know, just to live in a peaceful neighborhood, family oriented. I would like to see more green space. You know, we really lack a lot of green space in the lower part of East Cleveland. Up on the hill, so to speak, where, you know, closer to Cleveland Heights, they have a lot more green space up there. But down here, we lack it, and I think that we need more green space in the city. What was the other half of that question?
Vision for the city of East Cleveland.
Well,
what else do you envision East Cleveland?
Well, that
to complete your family friendly and your green space, what else does East Cleveland need?
It needs good leadership. We need leadership that really wants to see this city move in a positive direction. We've had a lot of bad leaders here. You know, good leadership is important, and I would like to see us have good relations with the surrounding cities. You know, I can see. I know everybody's budget is tight right now, but there's no reason why we can't all work together. I mean, we're bordering each other's cities. We should be able to work with Cleveland Heights or work with Euclid or work with Cleveland and cut the finances on some of our service-oriented jobs out here. There's a lot of things that can be done that I feel that we haven't been doing, our leaders haven't been doing for us. So we really need good leadership.
And that touches on part 2 of this question, is tell me about the major issues that need addressing in order to better our neighborhood, our community, our city.
Well, I think that we need, with our leadership, we need our leaders to court some of these businesses around here and bring some businesses to the city, whether it's with tax breaks or whatever. I don't know what we need to do, but we need to go out and we need to get people with that can bring a grocery store in here. You know, we need some of them really nice restaurants to come down here and be right here in East Cleveland. Why should we have to travel all the way to the other side of town just to get to a really nice restaurant? You know, and people, I think people will recognize the location of East Cleveland because it's an excellent location. And if we can get some of these nice restaurants, grocery stores, nice clothing stores, we can court these people and get them in here, you know, and I think that would change the perception of how people think about the city. I mean, we're right below University Circle. I mean, University Circle, one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the country, you know, and we're right here on their border. You know, there's no reason why we can't have some of these nice entities in our city. I mean, everybody needs a grocery store, you know, but we have none. No decent grocery store. You know, we need some really nice grocery store. We need nice restaurants where we can just go around the corner and have a dinner instead of going all the way across town. That's what I want to see. I want to see we have our shopping plaza up there on Superior Hill, but I want to see some major stores move down there. You know, if I want to go shopping, you know, all we got is discount places. You know, or hairdressers. That's all we got.
Major issues that need addressing. Earlier, you talked about the perception of people, and now you were just mentioning images. Can you talk more on that?
Well, people have perceived East Cleveland to be a drug-infested, murderous city. It is not that. You know, this were some perceptions that was brought on us back in early 80s when the drug trade was real bad. Well, all that has changed. You know, this city is not the city it was in the 80s. We do have people that's working in the right direction. We do have better leadership now. And I think we're going in the right direction. What was that again? You know, give me that question some more.
Right here is question 9. What is your vision for the future of East Cleveland? Tell me about the major issues that need addressing in order to better your neighborhood, your community, your city.
The major issues, one, like I said, is grocery stores desperately needed. You know, if you don't have a car, you can't go to a decent grocery store anywhere around. You know, more businesses, and I would like to see more businesses move into the city. I would like people to be more friendly as far as people are concerned. You know, but the perception, that's the point. The perception that other people have about this city is not what it is today. You know, actually, the crime rate has gone down so far in the city of East Cleveland. The crime rate around here is a lot better than a lot of these other communities around here. You know, crime rate has went down. Leadership is getting better. You know, I would love to see a grocery store and other businesses, you know. I would like to see the city of East Cleveland be able to go out and do its inspections and get people to taking care of their property the way they should. You know, I mean, you got certain codes and things that people are not abiding by anymore. You know, you find people put their trash in their front yard or in their driveway, and trash barrels get turned over by stray cats and dogs, and they just leave the stuff there. But if the city was to enforce its codes, this wouldn't be happening. So I would like to see the city be able to start enforcing its regulations and make sure that the city citizens, the residents who live here, live up to the regulations that's in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other major issues? I know we talked of school, and you said the schools seem to be moving in the right direction.
Yeah, schools seem to be improving a great deal. Kids are coming out and really accomplishing a lot. You know, I'm hearing about some good things happening with Shaw now.
Okay. What else would make this a better community, better neighborhood, better city?
I think that all falls on the people that live here. You know, if people would start taking pride in their community and showing concern for their property and their neighbors, be respectful of their neighbors. I just want people to just be more respectful to each other. Yeah. So I mean, you can talk about the government and how things are ran and the leadership and the other businesses around the community, but it all falls down on the people that live here. You know, it's important for people to respect their neighbors. You don't play music to all times of night, especially when you got a 90-year-old lady live next door to you. You know, there's certain things about respect that we need to get back to, and you can't blame that on nobody but the residents. You know, I just want the people to start living up to, you know, to wanting a better community. You know I do.
Hank, what would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland better?
I'd probably, well, right now I'm doing whatever I can. You know, I'm working with an organization called NOAA, Northeast Ohio Alliance for Hope. And what we do is try to bring the community together to improve the quality of life in the city of East Cleveland. And I'm willing to do whatever I have to do in order to make this work, you know. So I support organizations like NOAA and Case Western Reserve Social Justice Institute, who's doing this event here. I'll work in whatever capacity I can to better my community.
Okay.
You know.
Hank, let's talk about your education. I know you had a concern.
Yeah, at the last time I was interviewed, I mentioned that I had dropped out of school in the 11th grade, you know, but I never said anything about going back to school. You know, I did get a GED when I was in the military, and then when I got out, I went to Lackawanna College up in Scranton, and I got a degree in business. You know, and it served me well throughout the years. You know, I've always had good jobs, you know, never had a problem finding a job. I could always get hired, you know, because of my background. And it's only a 2-year degree that I had, associates, but it did well for me. You know.
Tell us about your college, your 2 years in college.
It was good. You know, like I said, I went to Lackawanna Junior College up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and it was I was the oldest one in my class. You know, in all my classes, I was the oldest one. You know, and but it made me study harder, and I maintained a 4-point average most of the time I was there.
What drove you to go and get your GED and then to junior college?
Well, when I went to the military, I was 17 years old when I got out, when I quit school, and I wanted to after I had done it and went into the military, I found out about the GED because I think GEDs had just came out then, you know. So they told me that I could get my I could get my GED and finish school, so I just did it. Now, when I got out of the military, I worked in Jones and Laughlin Steel for a while. I had a decent job down there, but I had a business-oriented mind, and I wanted to own my own business. At the time, although I was working at Jones and Laughlin Steel, I was also working at my stepfather's body shop, you know. So eventually, me and my brother ended up taking over the shop, So I took over. He took over the shop part. I took over the management, and I felt like I just needed some more education, and that's what made me go. And since I started working up there in the Poconos at that plant, I felt like that was the time for me to go to school, and it was funny because I was working full time, I was going to school full time. I was getting like 3 hours sleep a night, and I was married at the time.
Second wife.
Yeah, no, I was married to the first wife then.
That was the first.
I was still married to her then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What was college like? And what year would you say this was?
76. 76, 77.
What was college life like for you?
It was just studying. That's all it was. It was like, when I look back on it now, it was like a blur, because like I said, I was working full time, and plus I was going to school full time, so all it was, I didn't live the college life.
That's what I'm wondering, because I know you talked in your previous tape about Okinawa and some of the stuff you guys did, and then in Virginia Beach, how you were running the after hours. So you went to college and you just books.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. That's the only thing I had time for. Okay. It's just to study. Because my job wasn't hard. I was a payroll analyst. It was kind of easy. The only thing is I had a good memory back then, and that helped me out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So junior college for 2 years, and then what?
Well, then I came back to Cleveland, and that's when I started working for the VA. Okay. But I still had, when I came back, we still had the garage then.
And the garage was here in Cleveland?
Here in Cleveland.
Okay. And you went back working for the garage as well?
Yeah.
Managing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took care of the book work. My brother took care of the shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
In regards to school?
Yeah.
Anything else after the 2 years?
Well, I did a lot of, I took classes here and there. Even between jobs at one time, I needed another job. Where was I at that time? This was when I was up in New York, though. I took another job. I took a job in a hospital. And while I was there, I decided to get my certificate for a nursing assistant, and I went on and did that. So I've taken other classes and courses throughout my years, but I became a nursing assistant for a while, and But most of my classes that I took was aimed at business, Yeah, I just took that nursing class just because it was an opportunity to do this other job, and I took advantage of it.
Anything else?
Oh yeah, I when I got back to since I've been here back in East Cleveland, because I stayed up in New York for about 8 years when my job sent me out. Then I retired, came back to East Cleveland, and I got involved with NOAA, a community organization, and they sent me to a few different classes. I went to University of Toledo for a week-long training, and that was to improve my leadership skills. NOAA sent me there. So I did that class at the University of Toledo, and then I came back to Cleveland and I did I forget how many weeks it was, with Neighborhood Leadership Institute. I forget who recommended I go there. Somebody offered me a chance to go down to Cleveland State to the Neighborhood Leadership Institute. And I thought that was a really great opportunity, so I took advantage of it. And it turned out it was a good thing, because I have made so many connections with Neighborhood Leadership Institute that it has enabled me to do a lot of, whenever I have a project that I'm working for in the community, I can always get help from other Neighborhood Leadership Institute graduates, but that's just one more of, I'm still trying to learn as much as I can. So whenever opportunity comes up for me to learn something, I try to take advantage of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. I believe the Neighborhood Leadership institution, Neighborhood Leadership, used to be called Neighborhood Leadership Cleveland.
Well, it is Neighborhood Leadership Cleveland. Neighborhood Leadership Institute, Neighborhood Leadership Cleveland is under the umbrella of Neighbor Leadership Institute.
Okay. I believe that's a 4-month.
4 months, yeah, something like that, about 4 months,
And
yeah.
Good networking, and you're still in contact with a lot of these people.
Yeah, I'm in contact with quite a few of them. I think it's a great organization for you to network, because I've been finding out as I go around the city that a lot of the people in that lead organizations are part of this group. A lot of people have been through the Neighborhood Leadership Institute. You can find councilmen, and you can find business owners. You can find the clergy. I found people from all walks of life that have been through that course, and these are people that's doing good things around our community. And by me being a part of that alumni, I think has helped a lot in my endeavors.
Hey, you want to tell us more about your 2 plus 2 kids, your 4 kids?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier on, I had a child when I was 15 years old. That's my daughter. We're very close, and she has 3 kids of her own. And we're all very, very close. I have 2 other sons. They're my stepsons, but I hardly ever say stepson, because they've been my sons. I've raised them since they were little kids, and we all have good relations. We have good family relations. The 2 sons that I have grew up here in East Cleveland. My daughter spent a couple of years here in East Cleveland, but she's mostly been in Cleveland. I do have another son that I've lost contact with. He's down in Virginia Beach, the last I heard, and I'm in the process now of trying to get in touch with him.
Okay. Where are the other 3 kids?
Other 3? The other 3 they all here, right here in Cleveland, in the Cleveland area. My daughter, she's the oldest. She lives out in Fairview Park. It's close to Rocky River. She was in Rocky River, now she's in Fairview Park. She works over at Cleveland Clinic. And then I have a son who, Rashawn, we call him Tony. He works in the juvenile justice system as one of the guards down there. He's also into real estate. I'm very proud of him. He's already purchased about 3 or 4 houses, and he's looking to do more, in real estate. So he's doing pretty good. And then my other son is a machinist. I forget the name of the company he works for, but he's working, That's one good thing. I say all my kids are working. They're all working, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Hank, is there anything else I may have missed or anything else you'd like to touch upon?
Well, I just like to say that I've been living in East Cleveland now since 1980, continuously, and I'm not going anywhere. Our house is paid for. I'm not going anywhere, so I'm going to do whatever I can to make this a better community. And I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to improve the quality of life in the city of East Cleveland. I'll work with the government. I'll work with organizations that's like-minded. I'll do whatever's necessary. Okay?
Hank, I'd like to thank you for your time. Before we close it out, I'd like to ask one last question. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for the people in East Cleveland?
The only thing I can say is just be respectful of yourself and your neighbors. I think that's very important because we seem to have lost some of that in our community. You have to respect yourself and you have to respect your neighbors. I think it's very important.